You're free to proceed.
Okay, it is 9:30 on Monday, the 16th of August, and I'm calling the Boardwalk and Beach Committee of Rehoboth Beach, Delaware to order. First, I'm going to have a roll call, and if I miss anybody, I want you to chime in and tell me that you were missed, okay? Jimmy Hardy, Honey Fisher, Brian Hancock, Steve Curson, and
Here.
Great. Who did I miss? Anybody I missed? Okay, so there's probably no one on the phone. And Jay Legree is here. And we have a quorum and we can do business. So let's get started. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes of the meeting we held on 12 July?
Yes.
Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and all those in favor of approving the 12 July 21 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
That passes, and we'll proceed. We have no specific correspondence to the Boardwalk and Beach Committee, although I think I shared a couple letters with you that we had arrived through the Board of Commissioners that I thought was worth taking a look at, some of which we'd seen before, most of that information, and a little bit of it was new, so that's good for our background. And also during the month, we talked about reviewing a couple of videos from Montgomery County, and that'll be good for background. As we always say, we're here at the pleasure of the mayor and the Board of Commissioners, and we're here to serve those needs, and our direction is taken from them too. So we want to preserve the view shed of the end of Rehoboth Beach that borders the boardwalk, and we want to preserve the view shed of all portions of the boardwalk, and that's an open item. So we're ready to discuss that at any time something comes up. And as you recall, we were asked to take a look at the workshop which was held on 9 August, and we want to talk a little bit about that, but there wasn't really much said except that the mayors said that they had identified a consultant and they were negotiating with the consultant as far as the job and the pay, and he hoped to be able to say soon that consultant had been hired, and that's what they're still doing. I suspect they're getting close to hiring someone, so we should be able to hear those discussions between the mayor and Board of Commissioners and the city manager and the consultant in the very near future. And once that happens, as I think I might have indicated to folks, perhaps we could have that person come and talk to the Boardwalk and Beach Committee, and we could question him or her. In the meantime, we're going to get together and have a discussion on what we would like to recommend and what we would like to question, and pass those suggestions and recommendations on, and I will deliver those to the Board of Commissioners at our next regular meeting. So does anybody have any questions before we get going? I think I can answer them. I think we will discuss most of the questions that you had, and but if anybody has anything special that they want to say before we get started, I'm ready to hear that right now, and if not, I'll go on into the discussion. That picture that you see of our boardwalk on your screen is one that was on the television. Honey sent it to me, and it's a great picture. It kind of, the great thing about it is it shows all of our street lamps, or street lamps down the row, and we'll talk a little bit about that when the time comes. But right now we're going to talk about the 5G transmitting sites and what we like and what we don't like. And since our last meeting, Honey and Patricia have gone around and looked at, and I expect some of the rest of us have too. I certainly have taken a look at the proposed sites and maybe had some thoughts about what we want to do or say or discuss. So let's get on with it. As we just said, one of the things, before I start talking, you guys talk. Does anybody have any comments about this, what you see on this slide right here?
Jay, may I say something?
Go, Honey.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
I can hear you just fine. Can everybody else hear, Honey?
You can't hear me?
Yes, I think I can hear you.
Okay. The reason that I sent that picture is I wanted to show this is our brand. Rehoboth Beach Boardwalk is our brand. And that was the first picture they showed on the CBS Morning News. And I just shuddered at the thought of seeing that row of lampposts with antennas attached to all of them, you know, the nest of antennas that has been proposed. And it just made me shudder. And so that's why I want to say it. This is our brand. The Boardwalk is our brand, and we have promised to do no harm. And I really would like to see us find a solution that doesn't impact the east side of the boardwalk.
Yeah, I'm also reconsidering that. And if you remember in Mike Strange's letter to us, he talked about some things that we'll deal with that. And I think that will be a good discussion too. Steve
and
or
Jay, I also think
huh?
I seem to recall Bonnie Metz saying at the last commissioners meeting that they abandoned that proposal because the boardwalk couldn't support the weight of the posts. So this might not be an issue anymore. They might have to put it on the west side.
Yeah, that's possible, and that's certainly a factor.
Yeah.
There is nothing, I promise you, there's nothing that money can't cure. When we drove those pilings, when Stan was building the boardwalk, we had some really big pilings that we drove into the sand, and they hold up the fire truck and a bunch of stuff.
That's true.
So it's probably solvable. It would probably take them more funds than what they really want to talk about right now. And that's a little bit of what Mike Strange was talking about when he said they have their preferences, and those are very understandable. But they always end up at the bottom line. And so, yeah, that could probably be done, but it would probably be a real big situation if we force them to put, and it's possible that we too would prefer. I was looking around and talking about the west side and thinking more about it, and maybe there's a solution there. Who else wants to chip in here?
I think you knocked the nail on the head there, Jay. It is all about bottom line and Verizon's and all the other communication companies' thoughts and thinking. And of course, then there's precedence. So if we are able to get them to do what we would like, then they're going to have this precedence over them where they're going to have to do it for everybody. And I think money is going to be the deciding factor. It really is.
Yeah, but you'd like to have a precedent set that we think is great. And then we could make everybody else do that. And you just, you just hope that the consultant that we get and the mayor and the commissioners will drive that fact that we are setting a precedent, and we'd like to have the precedent set that we want set. And they're probably going to say, well, you got wooden poles now. We're just continuing what you have now. And that's a point. Now, would that stand up in court? Probably not. We could probably say any third grader would like to improve the aesthetics of our rights of way. So, and that would probably stand. But you just never know. It would take a lot of money, but it might be something we want to push and something that we would like to recommend to the consultant. And I want to talk about some of those things as we go forward. My personal, now let me go back again. I just hate these 4 tall poles in the middle because they break up.
Jay, are there even volleyball nets still on the beach? I have not seen them.
I don't know. I haven't seen anybody playing volleyball.
This summer or last summer.
Every time we go downtown in the night, they're not. So I don't know what those lights are shining on.
South side of the boardwalk now.
They put up nets down south, yeah. but
that is the south.
Huh?
Oh no, okay.
No, down at the other end.
That's the other end. Oh, those have always been there. Those nets have always been there at the south side. These are for like tournaments and things.
They sure are.
But it hasn't been years.
Has anybody seen them doing? Next question. Are those? Oh, dang it. Well, here, this is the better shot anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are these lights? See, this is a 5G AT&T light. There's their big old material box or switch box and the radios and stuff crammed inside of there. And these are the lights. Can everybody see my pointer?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
These are the lights that have been there forever. And I'm wondering what they illuminate. I don't know. Does anybody?
They were for the volleyball courts.
Right.
Yeah. I think so.
Years ago.
Yeah. Let's think about that.
Honey, I think they took those down last year when the COVID restrictions were really ramped up just to prevent. But I agree with you. I haven't. I think they took them down last year. I remember in 2019 they were there.
They were in 2019?
Yeah, I remember in 2019 that they were there. But I have not seen them since. And I assumed it was just due to, the COVID restrictions and things like that.
Okay, we're gonna put that on our question list. Do we need those big lights? Well, I'm gonna have to watch the stream again anyway, so I won't be taking notes. That's one thing. Now, if we take that down, we would force AT&T to move their transmission radio box and their switches and their meters and of course their antenna. But there might be another solution. I think these big old tall poles ruin our brand. They don't ruin our brand, but they sure don't help it any.
They don't help it.
I think our brand is this boardwalk. The brand of these beaches, our ocean, our beautiful street lamps that we have now. All that stuff goes together, and
it's a clean view with no commercialism. Is what I feel like. That's our brand. Precisely.
Yeah. And when Stan and I went down to the Jersey beaches year before last, these beaches that had been restored after Sandy and built back up, and these beach towns, the most beautiful beach towns were the ones that had exactly what you're saying, honey. Beautiful views, sea girt. I remember taking pictures of sea girt, and it was just like the whole thing was just like this with no tall pole. It looked beautiful. It was a beautiful. You loved it. This is what this is what just popped up. And I don't know when that popped up, but I know this is, is this Maryland? What street is Theo's on? I can't remember.
That's Baltimore.
Baltimore? Okay, this is Baltimore.
Yeah. It's right in front of Camp Rehoboth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Jay.
That's not Baltimore. Yeah, the other one, that one is in front of Camp Rehoboth on Baltimore Avenue. So it's the second block.
And I only have one. You sent me two, and I only have one.
But you get the idea.
Yeah, and this is not the one.
You see the box at the bottom. Yeah.
Okay, I think this is an AT&T. I thought this was an AT&T application and contract. Kevin may be somewhere to straighten this out. But these are 5G antennas. They are high band. They are the high band type that Verizon is putting up. So this is what we're looking at. Mm-hmm. And I think it just looks like the dickens. I understand why it's there, but I think it looks like the dickens. And there it is. This power box down here. So I don't want them to say, okay, you got this all over the town. Why are you griping about this? And we got to have an answer to that. And I think the answer's out there. We spend millions of dollars on infrastructure. We may not be spending it all on infrastructure in our right-of-way, but we spend millions on infrastructure. We have a multi-million-dollar boardwalk. We're having a streetscape that's going to cost millions of dollars. We're going to try to figure out a way to underground our utilities. That's going to be millions of dollars. We need to convey to the telecommunication companies that we're spending a bunch of dollars on infrastructure. And the consultant probably would be able to guide us on that and help us. And I think that may be something that we should think about, trying that angle instead of allowing them to say, well, you got this, so you're going to get this. But something to think about, something to talk about. I took this one out on the highway, and I suspect that's what we're looking at everywhere. Just don't know how far that's going to go. Or this is a state-controlled right-of-way, so they pretty much can do what they want. But we own our right-of-ways, and so something to think about, something to talk about. Steve, what are your thoughts now that we're discussing this again? Are you?
Well, Jay, I was just thinking of something. I guess the consensus is we prefer to have the poles on the west side of the boardwalk.
I don't know. I know we wanted to have them on the east side when we looked to see what they would look like. But
I was just thinking, if we did decide to have them on the west side, maybe we can get DENREC involved in helping us keep them off the east side, if that's the way we want to go. I don't know if they'd be help at all.
When you think about, I just don't know. I'm still up in the air. When you think about the fact that there's going to be other people coming down the line, it makes a difference. And let me show you what I did the other day. While I was setting up in the caucus room here in the City Hall. Can everybody see that? I looked out and I saw that our street lights they didn't look too bad when I looked at them. These are a composite. They have the power lines and everything inside. AT&T put one up here that you can just barely see the box here. Yeah. And my thought is that now that it's 2 or 3 years later, maybe they could even do better than that, or maybe make the pole. you see, it's the pole, it's a composite pole. It has two different diameters. It has a diameter here that goes on up, and there's the mid-range 5G antenna up there. It's not a high frequency, it's the mid-range, but still, it's an antenna. And then when you get down here, the pole gets bigger because they have to have room to put their radios and stuff inside. And there may be a solution. What if we, at the street ends, where they're thinking about putting those wooden poles, what if we ask them to take this lamp right here and to put it on the end of, to redo these goosenecks here and just put a lamp there and then put that at the street ends. Maybe where they're going to have, now this is Dewey, but they could put a gooseneck out here and make a street light out of it, and they could put a composite, and it would look a heck of a lot better than a wooden pole.
Now you're talking about Delmarva Power.
Yep, that's true. That's going to be a stumbling block. What do we do? How do we do? But you know what? If we do the streetscape and we underground the poles, it's going to be, Delmarva's going to have to get involved. And you just don't know how to approach that or attack that. We may be, well, that's something we have to figure out.
That's a good question for the consultants.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. I was just going to say that, honey. I think that they could put us in the direction of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it something we can even ask, or can we demand it?
We could probably suggest it, and we might, if we decide to underground, they're going to go along with us. We're going to pay for it, but we're going to underground them.
That's only 2 streets, though. We got to think the whole.
Say again?
The other 10.
The other 10?
And you bring up a good point with that too, honey, is that when they removed all of the power lines off of Rehoboth Avenue years ago with this, when they did all the, streetscape, for lack of better words, for all of Rehoboth Avenue, they were able to get everybody on board. I think we could almost go back and look how it was done back then, and who we reached out to, within Delmarva, whatever department, and, kind of get them brought in ahead of the game and at least get a direction forward from them and just have them part of the team.
Well, as you recall, the task force has hired an undergrounding consultant. Mm-hmm. So they should be able to answer all those questions. Mm-hmm. And you'd love it if we could do that at the street ends of all the places where Verizon wants to. And I don't know, it might be easier for multiple telecommunication companies to put their apparatus inside one of these than it is to nail it on the outside of a wooden box.
Yeah.
It might be easier. And
Who owns these poles, Jay?
Right here?
Yeah.
I think AT&T put this pole up, I think we have a contract where they pay the lease. But this is our right-of-way. This is Rehoboth right-of-way, so they're allowed to put those poles up. Now, I don't know whether we own these or whether Delmarva owns these, but
Jay?
There's money changing hands, huh?
Jay, I based on the fact that we're able to hang those banners on there.
Yeah.
Delmarva usually doesn't let people hang stuff on their poles.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they might belong to us.
This is Kevin. Yeah, those are city poles.
Oh, Kevin, you're here. Great. These are owned by us, Kevin?
Correct.
Okay, because I know we own the ones on the boardwalk, but then
We own the boardwalk poles, we own the median on Rehoboth Avenue poles, and then we own the street lights along Rehoboth Avenue. Those are kind of our biggies. A couple
Okay,
other incidental ones, other places, but those are the main ones.
okay. But I think that the wooden poles that are being suggested by Verizon for the street ends, are they going to own those poles, or do they become, since they're in our right of way? How does that work? I'm sure they'll continue to own ownership.
Not sure what Delmarva polls.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're not really eager to take on ownership of any other polls.
Okay. These look like crap. I've talked about that a lot. Maybe we could put these are owned by Delmarva, I think. Maybe we could put these in a green box and a small green box and make them look a lot better. That's something that just drives me crazy.
Disconnects for the 5G antennas, 4G antennas of AT&T.
Yeah. Oh, is this a 4G?
Correct. They haven't really installed any 5G yet.
Oh, because I think this antenna also works for mid-range 5G. I may be wrong.
They put those up 3 years ago before anyone was really talking about it.
Okay. 5G. Okay. Let's start asking some questions that we have talked about, and these just came to my mind after we had, after going back and talking about these things and reading letters from, not just from Mike, but from a lot of different people out there. And Honey has talked about, we have talked about the fact that the 5G, the high frequency 5G will not penetrate buildings or even go through a glass window or anything. How are the telecommunication companies going to handle that? Do we know? Are they going to make all these buildings put external antennas on them to pick up the 5G? Does anybody know what their plans are on that? Because
I don't think they legally would have the right to make anybody put an antenna on their building.
Well,
and then the issue I see with poles on the west side of the boardwalk is some of those poles at the end of the streets are going to be close up against buildings, and you're not going to get the 15 to 30 feet safety range around each antenna.
Yeah.
That's going to create another bunch of issues.
Yeah.
It's okay for some of the streets where the house is set back from the end of the street 30 feet, but you've got from Laurel Street north, where all the buildings end at the end of the streets.
Yeah. I just had supper last night with my wife, and I had supper with a couple who live in Miami during the wintertime. And they went through Hurricane Andrew, which had winds in excess of 100 miles an hour. He said the utility poles just snapped like matchsticks. And I think we saw on that video from Montgomery County that they worry about the poles only being 5 feet or 6 feet in the ground or 7 feet or whatever they are. And a heavy, hard wind just can blow them over. And you hate to think about that blowing into somebody's house. I suspect that these composite poles are probably suffer from the same vulnerability. I just don't know. I just don't know how that works. As you remember, the ones that we have now are bolted to concrete footings, but I don't know what kind of a wind they can stand, or what we have to do as far as asking our consultant to try to keep them away from structures so that if they blow down, at least they reduce the danger of crashing through somebody's window or house. The couple that we talked to last night said that once the envelope of your house was penetrated by either a tree or some blowing object, the wind came in, and then their whole house became no different from the outside. And he said it was really, really, really dangerous and very, very. He said the pictures blew off the wall, their furniture got blown into the corner. He said it was just a horrible thing when a 100-mile-an-hour hurricane came through and you were subject to whatever the Mother Nature would bring us. But that's frightening, and you need to think about that when we decide where to ask these folks to put their poles. And something for us to put some things together to ask the consultant. Another thing that we haven't done is really attack the control of the city rights of ways, and that's something that I wish we could figure out a way to do. The boardwalk is our right of way, and we own it, and we could do whatever we want. But the right of ways that coming up to the boardwalk on street ends where they're going to put all these antennas are city-owned right of ways, and we need to think about controlling that, and we need to ask the consultant what his or her thoughts are on that. I don't know, but that's something else that came to my mind. Honey, when you and Patricia walked around to all of the sites, mm-hmm. What caused you to change, or what caused Patricia to change her mind about west side, east side?
Well, first of all, she took a look with me. We stood and we looked down the boardwalk, and she saw the beautiful line of sight of all those poles lined up and how clean it was. And she said, yeah, it'd be really a shame to mess this up. Yeah. And so then we stopped at each individual location, and I showed her exactly where the poles were they were going to use and the ones they didn't want to use. And except for 2 or 3 streets, they were in locations that weren't that horrible, really. Uh-huh. That if they moved it a few feet one direction or the other, it would have been perfect. Not perfect, but it would have been a lot better. But it really wasn't horrible compared to putting it down the boardwalk. The real problem seemed to lie in the south end of the boardwalk, those last few streets where it's all residents, mm-hmm. and they wanted to put them up close like they did on Stokely Street.
Yep.
That was really kind of, yeah. If they could make the poles taller, that it got up above the view of anybody in those homes, it might be more acceptable. But if you could pass some kind of an ordinance limiting how close it can be to a residence, that might really help. I don't know whether you can do that now that they've already got Delmarva poles up, but Patricia changed her mind just by visiting each one of those mm-hmm. locations and seeing exactly what was impacted. Most of them were like the side of Funland or the side of
Gus and Gus's,
something that it really didn't like that. It didn't impact anybody. It was up above the view of the people up down the street. It wasn't horrible.
Yeah. When I walked around, I said to myself, boy, if we had a composite pole here with the street lamp on it and all the electronics were inside, like even if they're just like the ones that are currently in the median, it would be a much better thing than a big old wooden pole sitting there.
Right. Right.
However,
we were just looking at locations. We weren't thinking, because we know there are lots of options. There are even poles that look like trees. I mean, there's got to be something better. We were just looking at the location compared to the location of putting them on the boardwalk.
Indeed, indeed. And we may want to ask them, hey, what could you do? You know, why do you have to have it? And is there absolutely no way that you can't alter the height? Maybe we could get them down to where they were like, well, these are tall. These are taller than the street lights around town, but they're not out of the realm of being acceptable. And if we had a gooseneck on something like that, I could see that. I could even accept something like that on the corner of Prospect and East Lake Drive, much more easily acceptable at the boardwalk.
Right. As long as the light was directed down and not pointing at your house.
True.
That would be acceptable.
And that's a big thing, and that's doable. The shades on these are they're probably not dark sky compliant, but they're not far from it. We could work shades that would direct the light where we want it to go.
We both looked them up. There are lots of options out there.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Kevin, what are your thoughts on our chances of getting the telecommunication companies to go back to thinking about composite poles again?
Well, they've specifically with Verizon, because we've dealt so much with them, they've been very agreeable to use whatever we ask them to use. They're trying to get locations, but we talked at length about composite poles at the intersections in the residential areas, because you could mount a stop sign to it, similar to what the AT&T did on Wilmington.
Yeah.
So they'll give us whatever we ask them for. But
Okay.
somebody's got to tell them what they ask for, or tell us what they ask
for. Yeah, and I think we're going to make a giant step forward when we start talking to our consultant. So,
he's not going to be a cure-all, I guarantee you, because somebody is still going to have to say, "Does that look good?" Right? He's going to tell you, "Yep." You can tell them they have to put it there, or no, they can't put it there. But it's still somebody's going to say, "Is that acceptable from an aesthetics perspective?" Especially when you're talking about the boardwalk. Residential area, maybe not as much.
Yeah. So the solution is probably somewhere in the middle, or at least maybe reachable out there where we could get more acceptance. I don't know, but I think 5G is we're just going to be inundated with requirements for transmission equipment. I just don't know. How far do you think we can go with our aesthetic requirements? You think we can get to a point where we can say, this aesthetic need predominates. It's very important to us. You think they'll back down, or you think our consultant can have some suggestions? It's hard to know.
Yeah, so that's a big issue for me, is that, you say, I think our code right now, our design guidance talks about the aesthetics on a boardwalk and down Rehoboth Avenue.
Yep.
But, aesthetics is obviously beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. So does it have to be exact to what the boardwalk poles are, or if they can get it close, is that close enough? I don't know where that line gets drawn with respect to, if somebody were to take us to court with that. If we said, no, it's 3 inches thicker, the pole, so it doesn't meet our aesthetics.
Yeah.
Would that stand the pressure of, is it, are we being too unreasonable, or are we our rights to make them be exact?
Yeah.
And I don't know whether, somebody will make a call, some lawyer from the consultant we hire or whatever, somebody's going to make a call, and then it'll just see how it plays out.
Yeah. I think I probably said this, but there was a challenge to the Ninth Circuit findings that was on the docket for the Supreme Court. And all the pundits, the Supreme Court watchers, thought that the reasonableness of the Ninth Circuit findings was very challengeable, but they decided not to take it. The Supreme Court decided not to take it. And I think it was Amy Barrett that made that decision, as near as I could find out. But it's been up there, and there have been, I feel certain that there's going to be challenges that'll go all the way to the Supreme Court on just how much leeway these telecommunication companies have. Litigation is extremely expensive, and it's just hard to know how far they will move their bottom line to stay out of litigation. That's one reason why it's going to be very interesting to hear what happens in Dewey Beach. I'm sure that's not going to go to court, but it's just going to be interesting to see how much movement there is. And I think one of the people that we have been talking to concerning our consultant might be the same person or people or firm that Dewey Beach is using. And I remember looking that up on the internet. It's a huge firm. So that if that's the firm that our mayor has decided to use, that might be a good thing, because you'd like to have somebody who really has experience. And all of us watched that Dewey Beach council meeting, and we heard that consultant speak. So, and he seemed the one that talked to them seemed to know what was going on. So that's hard. It's hard to know what's coming down the pike. So I'm going to write a report to the mayor and the board of commissioners about what we'd like to ask the consultant. So can we go back and review that? What are our thoughts? Who wants to go with number one? Shall we ask how tall do these poles absolutely have to be?
I think, Jay, we may be putting the cart in front of the horses. I think we need to let the consultant go in and do his report and his investigation based on Rehoboth Beach needs, and Verizon and T-Mobile and whoever communication company wants to come in, and then present something to the city, options to the city that we can, because you can ask for whatever you want. We can give questions, and all it's going to do is muddy the waters and confuse everything. But if we've got a laid out plan by the consultant, or a laid out chart by the consultant that we can look at, and we can make our options from his report.
Yeah, we can do that, but can't we tell him what bothers us most, which from what we've talked about so far is ruining the brand of our boardwalk or of our town with unsightly poles.
I think that should be clearly put. when the city hires, that's his objective, to provide what the city needs. But again, it's what may work in one location may not work with another location.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to know what our options are. Right now, we're just out there wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Jay, maybe a way to put that is to say, is the city allowed to limit the height of the poles?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just asking them how tall. If you can limit it, then that's a number you can come up with.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to ask them, is it too late to put a limit on how close they can be to a residence?
Yeah.
Is that something that's going to impact it?
Yeah. These are things that are bothering us right now.
Right. I'm just hoping we still have time to work with Verizon.
I think we always have.
Missed the window somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Verizon wants us to be happy, or at least satisfied that we're working together.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Because we're not just any bump in the road. We're
the nation's summer capital.
Yeah, there you go. But just trying to put my thoughts together, and by all means, we'll want to hear what he or she will come in and do a survey and then tell us what they see. Mm-hmm. But we want them to.
That'd be interesting.
We want them to know that we're concerned about some things.
How does the protocol for this consultant work? Now, will the committee meet with him, prior to him, finalizing everything, within the parameters of the report that he's supposed to be doing? Or I don't know, where is he getting his direction from the mayor and the commissioners, or the city manager, or?
Go ahead.
That's just my concern.
Sure.
We're all working as a team, and I think that's the key is, we need to understand, within his contract, what are his or her or the firms, because it could be several, what are their parameters for the report that they're supposed to give to the commissioners and the mayor. And I think the key is within that proposal before it's executed, if he could meet with our committee, because a lot of the input that the commissioners and the mayor and the city manager receive are things that come from our committee. I'd hate, as Brian had said, I'd hate to put the cart before the horse. And I think as long as we have everything spelled out in great detail of what, the parameters are for this, I think, we can have, very good success in, meeting the objective of not only our committee, but as well as, the commissioners and the mayor, and, tying into a little bit what they're doing with the streetscapes and things like that.
Yeah,
I think walking into this, we should at least have a clear, set of objectives.
I think that will probably happen. I suspect he'll be meeting with the mayor and probably be briefed by the mayor. He'll brief the mayor, and they'll get together and he'll make a survey and probably bring a report. And I suspect that the commissioners, mayor and the commissioners will hear that and decide where we want to go from there. I'm going to have as much or as many of your recommendations as I can when it comes time to give input. And I'm getting a lot of them here today. And we'll make a report to the mayor and the commissioners for this Friday which will be before the consultant goes to work. So when the mayor briefs the consultant, he'll have our thoughts in his back pocket, and
I think
and
that's,
they'll go forward.
I'm glad to hear that, Jay. And I think, that is a very good starting point on how to move forward regarding this. And I think, with the slide that you have in front of us now, I think that is, a very good starting point. These are the key things that, we want to know right out of the bat within his report, as well as the other comments that, everybody else has added. And I think, we'll be able to accomplish, what we want, for the city.
I will try to put all of our thoughts together and just things that we said and comments that we made.
Right.
And present those to the mayor by Friday, which is the next regular meeting.
Right.
He may decide to give those to the consultant. He may just use those for his background. But I promise you, it'll come back to the commissioners, and we'll have our say. We'll have input. I promise you that.
Great.
So whether we'll have any headway, have no idea. You just don't know what Verizon will say. You just don't know where but the consultant is probably really good at handling that. And so we can probably go from there.
Okay.
What have we missed? What should we talk about? Steve, is there something that you've...
I just want to go over what Jimmy was talking about. I think it would be nice for you to get involved in as many of those meetings that the mayor and the consultant is going to have. So when you're getting back to us, you're getting firsthand information back to us. And also you're able to transit for whatever we have at our meetings into the consultant and the mayor.
Okay, I'm writing that down. Keep going.
That's what I said.
Brian, you got something to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with Steve. You are our point of contact, and we're going to need your input and your output from the consultants meeting firsthand, so we can base our questions and our concerns through you back to the commissioners, back to the consultant, and back to the mayor.
Okay. Sounds
I think
good.
You're doing a great job, Jay. I think you're doing an excellent job.
I'm sorry, but I can't raise your salary. You're at the top right now.
Agreed.
So
agree with that statement.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, Jay is involved in everything that goes on there concerning 5G. I'm very comfortable knowing that he knows everything that's going on. And we're hearing it firsthand from him.
Well, I wish I could say that's true. However, I'm not. I think some stuff slides by and I never find it out. But we keep digging. Jimmy, you have anything to add to what I'm going to take back?
No, I think, just to reiterate everything, I think, our marching orders have been, well defined in what we're looking for, just to tie in aesthetically and functionality wise of it. And I think, we've hit a lot of really good topics and answered a lot of questions that, we, as well as a couple other groups, have brought before us.
Yeah.
But I do not have anything to add. I think it's a really good starting point. I agree with everything that you had on the slide of ask the consultant. And I think we need to know what parameters, we need to work under. And I think he'll be able to answer that. And he'll be able to take something right off the table and just say they won't agree to it. So
I suspect that's true. I suspect that, and that's why we're paying this person to act on our behalf. He or she will know what they cannot do, or he or she will know what previous courts have held or have not held. It's just, Yeah, that's why we're paying, that's why we have
It's
them.
a
And,
framework from the consultant that we need to work from.
and as you remember, we have been pushing that for months. And I'm really happy that we're going forward with that. I have some not such good news. Allison and Guy are resigning from the committee. Both of them have really valid reasons, and some of those it may be resolved, and I don't know how long they'll be gone, but there really have been great. Guy and Allison have been just great, and I hate to see them go. If you folks know someone who's really interested in being on the Boardwalk and Beach Committee, please tell them to put their application in and give us a chance. Don't know what the mayor will do, but we have a number of applications already in for people who have wanted to be on the Boardwalk and Beach Committee. Some of them are older, some of them are newer, and I suspect he will, or the city manager will probably put out the word again that we're taking applications. Keep all that in mind, and we'll go forward. It would be fun to be able to announce the new members at the September meeting, which is when the new commissioners will be sworn in, and when the mayor will make other choices for other committees. So we got a month and see what happens. It doesn't have to be done that way, but I suspect the mayor will want to do that way. Don't have any new business to speak of, and I know that some of you had seen the article in the Cape Gazette, and you wrote me. I received emails from you about some ideas about moving the beach patrol shack, but the mayor wants to let the task force really have their go at that and see what they want to do. They may decide nothing, or they may decide something, and if they decide that that's a good thing, then maybe down the road we can get involved, because it will probably be on the boardwalk. So hang in there. Those of you who wrote me, hang in there, and it's not going away. I think that topic is going to stay, at least until they resolve it. So, and it may be resolved by saying, no, we can't do it. But anyway, I'm still concerned about the crowdedness on the boardwalk. The mayor's still concerned about commercialization on the boardwalk. And I walked the boardwalk last night, and there was just people everywhere. We just got tons of people on the boardwalk, and they're all buying stuff. And I hope the merchants have a great year. I think many of the merchants are limited just by the help they can get, as opposed to customers. They got plenty of customers. They just can't serve them. And
Right.
Go. Did somebody ask? Anyway, the next meeting is going to be on the 13th of September. You're going to have to wait and see. We may, if we're still virtual, Max and Brian and Joe, they may want us to wait until 10 to start our meeting, and I'll tell you when I can, when I find out from those guys. So, but that's the date. Do we have? Well, I don't think we have anybody that's signed up to speak of the citizens. Kevin, do you have any last minute directions?
No, not from me, thanks.
He's easy to work with. And Jimmy, Honey, Brian, Steve, anything this last minute to say?
I wanted to say the city's doing, Kevin, tell your people, the city's doing a great job cleaning up after the beach. People that leave their trash everywhere. It's just amazing to me. You look out and an hour later, everything's clean.
Yeah.
They're doing a good job.
Okay. They're obviously working very hard, being as understanding as they are. So I really appreciate that, and I'll pass that to you guys.
I sent a question to Jay earlier. Thursday, 2 weeks ago, there was a wedding on the beach, and somebody set up this structure and just left it. And we left Monday morning, and it was still up. And the poor guy, you know, the guy with the sand cleaner, he goes, but he was working around the thing. I don't know whatever happened to it, but geez, come on, people. How can you leave something on the beach? I mean,
Get a bucket loader to get that thing loaded onto a trailer and hauled off.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It had to be part of their wedding.
Yeah.
It must have been something in the wedding. Maybe
It was a wedding because I saw the groomsmen out there, and they worked for hours trying to dig that thing in, and then it was over. They just left it.
Yeah.
And of course, people coming to the beach the next couple of days had a great time. They were playing with it and hanging around underneath it, but then the city had to take it away. It's just a shame that we have to spend our time doing that.
That's true.
Just one other thing, Kevin, on Friday evening, I was, taking my usual walk on the boardwalk, and some people, as they were walking up, the pathway from the beach to the boardwalk, literally were just throwing garbage out of their beach bags and just left a huge trail of it. A couple people had criticized them just on the boardwalk, had criticized them. And just as that happened, the electric truck was coming up, and no discussion, no, back and forth or anything. That crew just picked it up, and it was just perfect. And I have to commend them. They did an amazing job.
Yeah. They're working hard.
As well.
Yeah.
Well,
Can everybody see this picture? What are you seeing?
We're
you
seeing
the consultant.
Huh?
Ask the consultant.
Can you see? Okay. Can you see the?
You have to click on it, whatever.
Yeah. I don't think I can share this. This is a picture of water hemlock. I found water hemlock out by my dock. No, I can't do it. Anyway, it is deadly poison, and it's all around Silver Lake.
Oh, yeah.
It's unreal. I bet I found a half a dozen plants around, even on the east side of Silver Lake. And here we have kids fishing out there, and they're walking out there. But we sprayed this, but boy, it's everywhere. It's deadly serious. Mm-hmm. That's what Socrates took to poison himself. Mm-hmm. So, well.
What? Okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
Second.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good
This
meeting,
meeting is
Jay.
adjourned at 10:32.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
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 Bye.